Alright, let's start with this question here. Here we're gonna ask three people how many pies they have baked. So we have three people. This is person one, two, and three. And we know for sure there will be three people. There won't be more and there won't be fewer. For every person, there is an indefinite number of days. So that's why we can see here that we are using a sentinel of -1. So first person will enter uh, data for as many days as they want, right? This guy here enter data for day 1, 2, 3, and then they end with a sentinel. This means they have no more input. Person 2 put data for 4 days, and person 3 put data for 5 days, and then they end with a sentinel. So at the end, we're gonna print the totals for each person individually, and then print the grand total. So let's think a little bit about the structure of this program. There's gonna be some loops involved in there. So again, if we think about the problem from the inside out, we can see here we have a loop, right? That loop day 1 to 4, that loop repeats here, that loop repeats here. So this is the inner loop. And from the look of it, this is a while loop controlled by the sentinel, right? Controlled by the -1 sentinel. We can do a while loop or a do while loop. Either of these will be fine. For the outer loop, we're gonna do a for because it's gonna iterate 3 times. We know 3 iterations, so this is the typical place where we do a for loop. So let's think about this a little bit. What else do we need to take care of in this problem is we want to print these counters 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember that if the inner loop is sentinel controlled, it may not have a counter, right? It's just controlled by the sentinel. So we can insert a counter inside just so we can print this guy. Whereas the outer loop is going to have a counter that's going to go 1, 2, 3, right? The for loop always have a counter. The while loop doesn't always have a counter because it's simply looking for the sentinel. But we're going to introduce a counter so that we can display these data over here. All right, let's go to the program. So we have a code here, just gonna print hello world, empty code. Let's start putting stuff in there. So first thing we're gonna do is declare a bunch of variables. Outer loop, gonna go 1, 2, 3. This is the counter I. Inner loop, we're gonna do while n not equal to 1. This will be the user input goes in n. So while n not equal to 1. We're gonna use a counter for the inner loop to print the day number. So this is the counter and total 1, total 2, and total 3. Alright, so this is our setup at this point. Let's erase this. And the question is, these need to be initialized, n and the counter. Let's think about this for a while. Why do we need to initialize n? Because the inner loop is gonna look like this. While n is not equal to -1, and we want to make sure n is not equal to -1, so the loop will start at the beginning. The counter, obviously, we want it to be equal to 1, so it prints 1 here, prints 1 here, and it prints 1 here. So if you think about this for a little bit, you can see that these two guys need to be initialized before every inner loop start. So they need to be initialized at this point. Then we need to initialize them again at this point, and then at this point, right? You want the counter be at 1, the counter go back to 1, the counter go back to 1. So we're not gonna initialize them here. Let's see, we're gonna do this inside the loop. So let's take care of the outer loop. Outer loop iterates on 3 people. For I goes from 1 equal to 3. That's the outer loop. I'm gonna move this inside, obviously. right? Let's write here person I. So I goes from 1 to 3 because we have person 1, person 2, person 3. So I indicates the person. So let's follow the output now. Person I, right? 1, 2, 3. So let's do this. Person, percent D, I. So this gonna print the person. Now is a good time to initialize n. N equals 0. So this means initialize it to non-sentinel. So the loop starts. Counter equal 1. Right? We want the counter equal to 1. And now we can start the inner loop. This is the inner loop. Let's put brackets around this. So you can see what we accomplish here is for person 1, we're gonna set n to 0, counter to 1, process person 1 in this loop. Then we go back up for person 2. We reset these again so we can process person 2. Then we go back up here for person 3. We reset these again and then process for person 3. So now you can see that if we had initialized them here, this wouldn't be right. We want to initialize them here. So for every person, they clear back to their initial values. All right. So let's see what we accomplished so far. The outer loop starts. We print person. We clear these two things, n and counter. Now is the inner loop gonna begin? So inner loop, that means we are at this point. Let's take care of this. There's a print followed by scan. Let's do the print. Day percent D colon space. Of course, the counter is what's gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm gonna print the counter, which is already initialized. I can increment the counter, make it ready for next time. And let's take input from the user. Scanf percent %d ampersand n. Here is the input. So couple things we want to take care of here. First thing, obviously, the scanf could become the sentinel. So if the user enter the sentinel, we don't want to add it to any total, right? When you do scanf, that could be the sentinel. So this is our customary is we do process legitimate input only if n not equal to -1. So that's where we want to process. So the negatives they're gonna consider as input. If we wanna ignore the negatives, we can say process, let's ignore the negatives. So that means the legitimate input is greater or equal than 0. Let's also put the counter in here. So if there's negative, the counter stay where it is. Okay, let's do this. So what's our processing step? Let's review again what we did. So print day 1, day 2, whatever the day, print the day, read a value. If the value is positive, then we're gonna add it. Where do we add it? To total 1, total 2, total 3. And this gonna be indicated by I, because we are processing person I. Alright, so if I is 1, that means total 1. If I is 2, total 2. If I is 3, total 3. So we're gonna do this. If I is 1, total 1 plus equal n. Else if I is 2, else total 3 plus equal n. Alright, let's put this guy here, total 1, 2, 3, and increment the counter. The effect of incrementing the counter here is that if the scanf enter, let's say -10, it will be ignored, and the same day will repeat, as we're gonna see later. So counter will not increment. So if they put, let's say here, day 3, -10, is gonna ask for day 3 again, right? Day 3, -10. So we're gonna repeat day 3 because this is really will be ignored. We want the same day to stay. So the day will not increment if n is negative. If we put here -10, we're not gonna enter this block. It will go back to the start, ask for day 3 again. That's the effect of putting counter plus plus inside here. Alright, so this is our inner loop. Let's see what we got so far. This is our if, that's the inner loop, ends here. Between the last input we need a new line, create this spacing. This will do it. So I think the code is in good shape now. Let's repeat again. So outer loop will repeat 3 times. I indicates the person. Print the person I, which will be 1, 2, 3. Make sure the loop is gonna start by clearing n to 0, non-sentinel. Reset the counter to 1. Enter here, print day counter, read the input. If input is negative or sentinel, we're gonna ignore it. Sentinel will end the loop, negative will not end the loop. We'll repeat again, like -10, we'll repeat again. Otherwise, if the input is legitimate, then we're gonna add it to one of the totals. We have total 1, 2, 3. So check the I now, check the person. I is gonna be 1, 2, 3 for each of the 3 people. If we are person 1, do this. This will be 2. If we are person 2, we do this, else will be person 3. Add the total. And this will be end of the while loop. We process a person, we repeat again. So needless to say, the sentinel will not be added, right? If the user punches -1, it's not going to be added because we won't enter this if statement. Alright, so let's print the results. Total 1, %d, total 2 and 3. Let's put an extra new line here. And let's print the grand total. Grand total, put an expression to add. Alright, let's run this. Day 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's put sentinel. Alright, that's good. 2, 3, 4. Let's put sentinel. Let's test the negatives. 10, 20. -10. Okay, I'm not sure that behaved well here. Oh, I enter negative. Did I enter -10? Let's repeat this again. 1, 2, -10. Yeah, now it's working. It's working. I punched in something wrong, right? So -10, let's stay at day 3. Let's put another bad one, -30, stay at day 3. So here we have 1, 2, that's 3, let's put 7. So if our program is working correct, it should add 7 plus 2 plus 1 equal 10. Let's put the sentinel. Yeah, that's went to person 2, that's good. I'm wondering here, what if I put the sentinel? Does it just say 0? And this guy 1, 2, 3, 4, sentinel. The output is good. So here we just counted 1, 2 plus 7, that's 10. Nothing was input, so program behaved well, gave 0. 1, 2, 3, 4 add up to 10. That's the grand total. So everything seems to be good. The format matches what we wanted, so that's also nice. One last thing we're gonna do is let's trace this case. Right, the user punched the sentinel the first time. So if I look at the code, what has really happened in that case? So let's see here. Person 2, we were at person 2, n equals 0, counter equal 1. So that means the loop will enter, will say day 1, which it did. Sentinel entered immediately from the first try. So the block will not enter. Right, this is not legitimate, it's not gonna process. The loop will exit immediately and move back to person 3. The important thing is total 2 was never incremented, right? Because here person 2 means we were supposed to add to total 2 because I was equal to 2. So total 2 was never incremented. That's why it stayed 0 and printed 0 at the end. Alright, that's fair enough for this question.